So, hello and welcome back to our coffee conversation. I'm Wendy Bowen. I know it's been a while since I've done a coffee conversation, been really busy. However, I wanted to talk to you all today about something that comes up a lot in the family court situations and relationship situations that I see as a family court attorney. Um, it's one of those calls we get when you hear the panic in someone's voice before they finish their sentence. And it can come from both directions. The first one would usually be, you know, my ex just told me they're moving. Can they take my kid and move them across wherever? Or the opposite side of that is, I want to move for whatever reason. We've got this custody um, order or agreement in place. What can I do? Can I move? And we get that from both sides. The moment when someone you co-parent with is dropping news on a person like that, it can be scary. It can kind of shift your ground under your feet a little bit, because all of a sudden, especially if you're on the receiving end of that, you're doing the math in your head, and how far will my child be? How often will I get to see my child? What does that mean for school? What about holidays? What about me just being there, being able to go to activities, recreational activities, sporting events? So today I just wanted to sit with the question honestly, because the answer is not always just yes or no. It is never that simple. And honestly, understanding even a little bit more of how that works can change everything for the parties involved. So here's the first thing we're going to talk about. They usually they can't just go. So when I do custody agreements, and or if there are orders, and even some of the standard language that judges have in their parenting plans or circuits have in their parenting plans, especially in South Carolina, when those things are in place, there are already rules that exist around relocating. So I'll give you an example. So usually in South Carolina, the standard rule is, if a person is going to move 15 miles or more away from where they currently um, live, and they are, and it goes for either party, then they have to notify the other party of where they're going and the reasoning, and they have to do that 90 days before they move. And so all those rules exist so that um, someone can be put on notice. The courts care about that. They care a lot about both parents being in the child's life. And a move that puts some real distance between a child and one of their parents, that is not something that just gets waved through, or that is not considered seriously. Now, and this matters. Where they're moving makes a huge difference in how serious this gets. I mean, if you're moving 30 miles, that's not different. If you're moving an hour, it may not be that different. 20 minutes away, honestly, that's probably not going to change much. Pickups still happen, life still goes on. But if you're moving 2 hours away or to another state, that could change everything, because we're not just talking about a new address. We're talking about, how does your child still have a real relationship with you? And that's the question that the courts are going to be asking. So let's say the move is significant. When I mean significant, in distance and time, what's supposed to happen? The parent who wants to move has to give the other person notice, and real notice, not just a heads up. That you typically want to be open about it. I'm moving to Chicago from South Carolina. I got a new job. You know, and that way you can start to have more dialogue about those things. Because one of the things that you have to consider is, if you have a court order in place that establishes some type of visitation, that court order remains. It doesn't matter if you move away. So how are we going to fix that? And so after you give that notification and the person disagrees, that gives them ample time to file with the court, so the court can make at least a temporary decision regarding the status of where the child's residence will be until the case is complete. Um, if you feel like a move is going to genuinely hurt your relationship with your child, you have to say so. You have a right to say so, and you have a right to push back. And if the two people can work that out, that's great. But if not, that's where the courts step in. And here's what I want you to understand about how the courts think. They're not asking, does the parent have a good reason to move all the time? Although they do ask it, if you're just moving because you're following a relationship, well, how's that in the best interest of the child? Because we need to know what's in the best interest of the child. And they look at those 17 factors. What does the child need? Where's the child's life? How's it been? How's it going to be different? Are there other family members there? So work related isn't always um, going to be, stop you. The court can't necessarily stop you, but the court can make a determination as to if it is in the best interest for the child to move just because you have to move to work when there's another parent in the state where the child has been established. So is there something genuinely better on the other side of that move for the child, or does it mostly just put distance between the child and the parent, especially when the parent is showing up for the child? Courts protect those bonds, they take it seriously, and the parent who moves away and cuts off meaningful contact, well, that may not go over well. Now, if you're the parent that is thinking about moving, I need to say this clearly because I've seen it go bad. Don't move first and then figure it out later. That can come out really, really poorly for you. I understand the temptation, sometimes the necessity, but you've got an opportunity. It may be a fresh start for you. You think, I'll deal with it afterwards. But if you move without following the right steps, you can end up in an emergency hearing. You can end up on a rule to show cause and be held in contempt of court. You can end up with a judge ordering you, hey, bring the child back and you can go wherever you want to. And it can unravel really, really quickly. So whatever side you're on of this coin, get your information first. I'll tell you what these cases are really about underneath it all. It's usually about fear. One parent is scared they're going to lose their kid. The other one, um, they become someone their child sees a few times a year if they're lucky. And then they slowly become strangers. The other parent feels like their life has been frozen in place, like they don't get to move forward until someone gives them permission. Both of those feelings are real, and I've sat across from them. But I've also said this: you chose the relationship, and you chose to have children with a person, and understanding that life changes happen. So sometimes we have to suck it up, Buttercup, because the court's not going to take sides on fears or based upon fears. They're going to figure out what is actually in the best interest of the child and build from that. And so if you're considering it, or if this is happening to you right now, whether you're the one thinking about moving or the one who found out, don't just sit on it. You need to talk to someone. You need to have the conversations. And I would say, if you have a good co-parenting relationship, your first conversation needs to be with the other parent. Because there are oftentimes, if you do that and it shows a good co-parenting relationship, that you've tried to work this out, that can be a positive thing for you as well when you go to court, or if you have to go to court. You want to make sure that it's a real conversation, it's an honest conversation, and that the conversation stays focused on the child and the best interest, and how you can keep the connection and bond for the other parent. Now that's difficult if you move far away. You start with a parent only having a long weekend a month, or you know, but you may be able to work it out so that the child is spending more significant time during the holidays and in the summers versus throughout the school year. But it does get difficult, and we just have to be careful in making sure not just that the parents are happy, but the children are able to maintain their relationship with their parents If they have other siblings, they're able to maintain that. What are their family connections that they're about to leave? What about their school, their friends, their doctors? Are there any special medical needs that that need to be considered? There are just so many topics that need to be covered. So I would say your first conversation needs to be with the other parent. Then, if you can't work it out, that's when you need to go and seek legal assistance. People always want to rush to an attorney, and I'm an attorney, and this may sound strange, but attorneys don't have the answers necessarily. They're just here to guide you. You know your family best. And so, make sure that the attorney is a good fit, that this just isn't about trying to be a bulldog and bulldoze over another parent, because that won't work out well for you either in situations. Because when you're talking about custody and parenting time with a child, it is about the child. It is not about the parent. It is the best interest of the child. And in South Carolina, we have a whole slew of factors that the court's going to look at and going to decide. They probably will get a guardian ad litem put in place to do an investigation. So the emotional toll is there. Your financial toll starts to build, because not only do you pay for attorneys, you have to pay for the guardian ad litem. You end up paying for mediation. And depending on the outcome, you may end up reimbursing someone for their attorney's fees if things don't go your way. So I just wanted to, give you some information on that, let you think about it. I know that it's a lot to think about, and I hope it was helpful. Pass it along. If someone was going through this, just let them know about this video. There's some things that they need to think about, and maybe make a telephone call and say, hey, I need to discuss this. And hopefully it can get you on the right track to plan appropriately if you plan on relocating, or if you have to, or you're in the throes of trying to determine what to do because the other parent is relocating. So thanks for the coffee and the conversation. I'll see you next time.